Good afternoon, everyone. This is Bob Pompiani. We're live at Heinz Field getting set for the Mike Tomlin press conference, and we welcome everyone on Pittsburgh CW and all the Steeler digital platforms around not only this country but the world, as the Steelers, despite 2 losses in a row, have a chance to win a division championship coming up Monday night in Cincinnati. All they need to do is win based on what happened last night. A wild, exciting game in Cleveland where the Ravens came from behind and beat the Cleveland Browns. So that means the Steelers win and they are in, and then they have 2 more games after that against Indianapolis, and of course the final one in Cleveland against the Browns. But the Steelers certainly have a lot to work on. In these last 2 games, not been very good offensively, and that's an understatement. Their run game has gone from where it was in the first 6 games of the year when they were averaging 130 yards per game and a 4.1 per clip average, to in the last 7 games, it's been trending toward the bottom, if not at the bottom. And that's really something that they have to work on. From a physical standpoint, a mentality standpoint, a play calling standpoint, things have not gone well there. And the short passing game, as a result, which was effective early in the season, has been neutralized. And it appears as if defenses can certainly limit their coverage field based on the fact that they have had issues there in man-to-man coverage. So there's a lot to work on, but the Steelers have this week an extended day, a little bit more rest time in advance of this game against Cincinnati, which has struggled this year, but they're certainly capable of pulling an upset. So with that in mind, let's go over to the South Side. Mike Tomlin is now ready for his weekly press conference.
Good afternoon. I'll always start with a quick synopsis of the last performance. You know, like we talked about after the game, man, I got to tip my cap to Buffalo. They made the significant plays and won decisively because of it, to be quite honest with you. But when I really look at the tape, you know, you can go through some of the minutia and things of that nature, but the bottom line is they were the more physical football team. It could be highlighted in terms of their front and our inability to run the ball, but just in general, I thought in all elements of play, they were the more physical group. Now, they're a physical football team in general, and so they're capable of that. But for us, regardless of circumstance, we don't want to make that comment. But that comment is true as it pertains to that matchup. And so, we gotta be accountable to that, and we are. We got to make sure that we're not saying that moving forward. And hadn't been a lot of situations where we could say that, but definitively, I thought that they were the more physical group. And not only in the box and in box play, but in some of the perimeter play. I thought, Diggs at the wide receiver position played a real physical game and made physical type plays. I thought their coverage people played aggressive and physical, and so in the return game and in the kicking game, I thought their veteran return guy was vertical and efficient, and they won the battle of field position because of that definitive element of play. And so we looked at the tape yesterday, and we're excited about having a full week and then some in terms of getting prepared for our next opportunity. I know we've talked quite a bit about our run game and deficiencies in that area. And, our focus hasn't changed there. We're several weeks into a focus there, and we'll continue to work. We hadn't necessarily seen the fruit of that work yet. And some of that can be traced to some of the short weeks we've had, and we're acknowledged that. And that's why we're excited about working this week and continuing with our emphasis there in an effort to get that product to look the way we need it to look and round out our offensive attack and allow it to be more fluid and productive. On the injury note, we're dealing with a number of injuries, such as life in this game. We dealt with some last week. I like some of the efforts that I saw, particularly at the inside linebacker position. Can't say enough about a guy like Marcus Allen, who's new to the position and new to the number of snaps that he had to get the type of effort that we got from him, for example. But there's a lot of guys that you could speak to who step up over the course of a football season to respond to that, and some will be given an opportunity this week. As you guys know, Matt Fowler is on IR with a pec injury. Some other guys who got injured in game and whose availability at the least could be compromised at the early portions of this week. We do have an extra day of prep, so we're excited about that. Dotson has a shoulder in the offensive line. Okorafor has an ankle in the offensive line. Connor has a quad at running back. Terrell Edmonds has a shoulder. We're excited about potentially getting Joe Hayden back, who's been in the concussion protocol and is looking to get out of that. But again, we'll assess who's available to us. We'll formulate a plan to highlight the strengths of that group individually and collectively and work to minimize it, the weaknesses, and prepare to play the Bengals. There's a lot on the table for us. We're excited about primetime football. We essentially laid an egg last week on primetime football, so we're excited about getting another opportunity at that. We're back in the AFC North in divisional play. If you want to dominate the NFL or be one of the teams in contention to dominate the NFL, it starts first and foremost with divisional play. We have an opportunity to play our 5th divisional game and secure the AFC North title. So those are tangible things that has our attention and excitement as we work this week. But for us, it's about assessing who we have available to us and sharpening our sword for the battle that lies ahead. We expect to get the very best of Cincinnati. That's a rivalry type game, if you will. It's an opportunity for them to have a feel good in the midst of a trying circumstance or season for them. It's a home game. It's Monday Night Football. We understand and respect all of that. And so I'll pause and allow you guys to ask questions now.
All right, thanks, everybody. Let's go to Dale Lally. Dale?
Mike, is there a feeling that Dawson's shoulder will be better with the extra day of rest and potentially moving forward?
It is, but again, his availability could be compromised at the early courses of the week, and that's why I mentioned him along with the other ones, Okorafor, Edmonds, Connor. We'll make all their availability decisions based on the practice and the quality of it.
Mike Rizzuta.
Mike, how do you fix physical, and is that disappointing? As you mentioned, that's usually part of your guys' MO.
It is disappointing, but part of fixing it is first acknowledging it. And so that's what we did yesterday, man. We watched the tape, and part of watching the tape is looking at the tape and analyzing that component of play. And then, making the commitment and then, plotting a course of action procedurally from a prep standpoint to make sure we position ourselves that our next tape doesn't look like that. So we're excited about what this week holds for us.
Tim Benz.
Mike, with the way Ben is getting rid of the ball so quickly, so often in your offense, do you feel like you have a clean evaluation of how long your offensive line can hold up if you try to pump in some more deep or intermediate pass routes, and might you try more of that over these last 3 games here?
I don't have any concern whatsoever about our offensive line's ability to pass protect for Ben, whether it's short passing or intermediate passing or down the field passing. Pass protection has been an asset to us.
Brooke Pryor.
Yeah, Mike, how do you balance letting Ben Roethlisberger run the offense when he feels like it and also having a balanced offense? Are you guys at times putting too much of the offense on Ben?
Really, we make those decisions about the mode in which we work, and that's what you speak of. We work week in and week out to determine when and what that looks like, what are the advantages of it. And so there's a lot of variables at play, and we kind of make those decisions week to week based on a lot of variables. Our makeup and our ability to execute, the challenges of the opponent, the vulnerabilities of the opponent, whether it's operating at pace or changing people or otherwise.
Jerry Dulac.
Mike, I know you said it's disappointing, but this is the second or third week in a row you've talked about not being physical enough. Is it surprising to you?
I don't know that I've, said it 3 weeks in a row. I know that Buffalo was definitively the more physical group. And so, we have to acknowledge that and be better, and we will.
Will Graves.
Mike, you mentioned, procedurally preparing to be more physical. Does that mean, will you look for opportunities to get guys in pads at all this week, or is it just too late in the season for something like that?
No, certainly there's an opportunity for that, particularly because we, have a legitimate week's prep this week. So, we're excited potentially about that.
Jim Colony.
Yeah, Mike, how do you feel that Deontay Johnson responded to getting benched for a time on Sunday night?
I thought he responded appropriately. He didn't pout, and he waited for his next opportunity. And when his next opportunity came, he was productive. And so we'll move forward.
Jeff Hathorn.
Mike, some of the Bills players said they were fired up by Juju dancing on their logo. What do you tell your guys about doing things like that?
I don't know what you're talking about. That's the first I've heard of that. These are professional players. These guys are motivated each and every week. Sometimes they say things in an effort to provide, a vision of motivation and things of that nature. But I doubt, knowing the group that coaches that team, Sean McDermott, I'm sure that they were motivated in all the proper ways, and that had very little relevance in terms of how the game was played.
Miller.
Hey, Coach, you often talk about the journey, and it's been a rough 2 weeks. So how do you feel about being in control of your own destiny, where you control what happens to you down the stretch?
I'm not overly concerned or, paying a lot of attention to that. If we take care of the moments, the journey will take care of itself. We got an AFC North road game this week where we have an opportunity to secure a division title. And so that's where our focus is. And really, that's where it should be.
Alan Saunders.
Mike, the passing game has been throwing the ball from a time standpoint when he's in the pocket, much less than he has pretty much over the last 5 years. Was that something that you sought out coming into this season, or do you feel like that's just been more of a reaction to what's been happening on the field?
Rhythm passing has been something that's been an element of play for us for a number of years, to be honest with you. He's good in that area. We're good in that area. There's very little negativity in the plays in terms of negative loss plays, sacks, and so forth. That's nothing new for us, to be quite honest with you.
Ray Fittipaldo.
Mike, Chase Claypool's snaps have decreased a little bit here the last 2 weeks. Has he hit that proverbial rookie wall, and what can you guys do to help him if he has?
I'm not acknowledging that he has, but I'm acknowledging that there's a potential for that. And one of the ways that you help a young man work through that is reduce his number of snaps, which is what you see us doing.
Aditi Kinkobala.
You often like to talk to us about which way the arrow is pointing. The arrow is pointing up. Do you feel that the team right now, your team right now, is trending upwards or trending downwards?
I'll leave the commentary to you guys. I know that we've lost 2 games in a row. I know that we have an AFC North game waiting for us this week. And so that's what we're preparing for, and that's what our focus is. I care less about the commentary and trends and things of that nature. I'll acknowledge what has transpired. We've lost 2 games in a row, and they haven't been good performances, and we're looking to rectify that.
Mark Caboli.
Mike, I know you said early in training camp that Ben's spiral wasn't as tight as it used to be. I know some of his deep passes were floating out of bounds recently. Is that still the same way for you? The spiral is an issue, and that could be causing that?
I struggle to remember the conversation that you mentioned, to be honest with you. We've had a lot of conversations and evaluations of Ben throughout the course of the season. To be honest, I don't remember that conversation and how it relates to the question that you asked.
Jim Benz.
Mike, when it comes to T.J. Watt, was he battling through something physically in Buffalo, or when it comes to managing his snaps, is that sort of a touch and feel thing that you guys have in game, or do you have sort of a method, a formula about what you are following there?
If you remember several weeks back when we talked about those block of games, we mentioned that we were going to have an all-hands-on-deck mentality because of the number of games we played in a short number of days. We thought it was appropriate to play a lot of people, to roll a lot of people at all positions. And so, outside linebacker and T.J. Watt it is not excluded from that. And so if you're looking at any of that, it's probably a bigger theme in terms of us acknowledging that we had to play a bulk of the games in a limited number of days in an effort to keep everybody up and function with the level of physicality and effort that was required to perform in those games. We wanted to play a lot of people. Looking back at it, obviously we didn't have the type of success that we desired to, but that is life. And so hopefully we learn some lessons from it and move forward.
Brooke Fryer.
Yeah, Mike, I know you said that James Conner has a quad injury he's dealing with, but when he was coming back, did you notice him being affected at all by being on the COVID list and dealing with that? I mean, it's, COVID can
I did not, no.
Okay.
Jim Colony.
Yeah, Mike, I know you mentioned Diggs, but what was the major issue? There were other guys too with the pass coverage in the third quarter.
It was really primarily Diggs, he's a quality player. We knew it going in, and, he made some plays, and Josh Allen made some plays, and give them credit. They made some adjustments. I thought for 30 minutes we did a really good job of maybe keeping them and him, meaning Allen, off balance but we weren't able to maintain it over the course of 60 minutes.
Will Graves?
Mike, I know he's been limited this year a little bit, but in terms of J-Sam, I mean, he got more touches, almost as many touches on Monday or Sunday as he had the season combined. Does he have a role going forward, or was that just a one-week thing because of where your personnel was at?
We'll determine that as we formulate our plan this week and look at who's available to us and what assets they provide relative to the matchup with the Cincinnati Bengals. And that definitely could include him and him in an increased role, as you mentioned.
Joe Rudder.
Yeah, Mike, how did you think Avery Williamson did with the extended amount of playing time in the communication in the middle of the defense?
I can't say enough about his work and his work to get up to speed and embracing the responsibility of being a central communicator for us. He was better, and it is reasonable to expect him to continually get better with each opportunity. But I can't say enough about his efforts in those areas.
All right, got time for two more. Aditi Kinkwabala.
When you added Matt Canada and Ike Hilliard to the staff, you talked about infusing new ideas into the room. Can you share with us a little bit what that process has been like, and if you are happy with the input that they have been able to give to your offense and the diversity of your offense?
I am happy with the inclusion of those two men and the differing backgrounds and perspectives and ideas that they bring. It has been beneficial toward us. Toward our efforts, and I expect that it will continue to be.
And we'll wrap it up with Jerry Dulac.
Hey, Mike, are you able to recapture offensively what you were able to do earlier in the season? Is it fixable? Is it an easy fix?
Yes. I wouldn't necessarily say it's an easy fix. I was answering yes to, is it fixable? Certainly.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, that's Mike Tomlin with his weekly press conference, acknowledging the last part of the question there about fixing the run game and fixing what's happened there. And he believes it can be fixed, but it has to be fixed, quite frankly. The Steelers are not trending in the direction they want at this point with 2 straight losses, but overall still 11-2 with a chance to wrap it up this division championship against Cincinnati on Monday night. I guess the big news here was the injury situation in that Matt Filer is on IR. Because of the pec, but it was originally thought of a pec for Kevin Dotson. That's not the case. It's a shoulder, so his availability will be determined as the week goes on there. And James Conner has a quad. You saw him go in and out of the game. That would explain why Jalen Samuels had more snaps than he did. In fact, more than Chase Claypool did in that game. But they continue to look for right personnel groupings. They continue to look for better play calling, and this is some of the things the Steelers will work on this week as they get set to take on the Cincinnati Bengals. I want to remind you, coming up on Saturday night, it's another edition of the Mike Tomlin Show. Missy Matthews and I will navigate you through that as we get set for a big AFC North game, the second of the last one, and again, with a chance for the Steelers to win an AFC North. As he said, that's the one box you want to check more than any when you start the season, and they have that in their midst on Monday night. That's going to do it for us. Once again, thank all those viewing on the digital platforms of the Steelers all across the globe, and thank you for joining us here on Pittsburgh CW. Much more coverage coming up tonight on KDK TV at 4, 5, 6, 10, and 11, and we'll see you again next Tuesday right here for another edition of the Mike Tomlin Press Conference. Have a good day, everyone.